DreamLight's Nightmare Tales.
As the sun set on the stately manor house, a man was hard at work in its elegant kitchen, sliding around the marble tiled floor with the grace of a ballerina. He threw measures of different seasonings into the pans that occupied 4 of the 5 gas burners on the stove. A large pot boiled on the 5th. The man, a 50-something Mr. Edward Steele, hummed a tune as he mixed the ingredients in the pan with care, almost drunk on the sumptuous fumes emanating from the cookware. Adding to his intoxication was the anticipation of company, and he had instructed his butler to lead his yet-to-arrive guests into the vast dining room. A glance at the clock told Mr. Steele that the hour was almost upon him, and he rolled down the sleeves of his dress shirt to button the cuffs closed. He refused to have anything but the finest raiment for this special occasion, and everything adorning his frame was evidence of this. He scoffed at the idea that people might frown on him for preparing dinner in his evening wear. A ringing from the other side of the room caught his attention, and the gray man seemed to glide across the floor to answer the phone's call. A terse voice at the other end of the line informed him that his guests had arrived, and he did the courtesy of letting the caller know that the dinner was ready to be served. He had at least spared his butler the trouble of cooking today. Showtime! A smile lit Edward's face as he picked up a jacket hanging on the back of a chair in the kitchen. In a further exhibit of his adeptness, he slid it on and buttoned it in one motion. Now ready for the gathering to begin, he pushed open a swinging door and stepped into the dining room. Conversation halted, and all eyes turned toward the host, and whispers ran around the table as everyone stood, waiting until Mr. Steele was seated before doing the same. Edward tapped a silver spoon against his crystal drinking vessel. The clear ring from the head of the long table silenced everyone again. I'd like to thank you all for coming, even if it is for just the free food. A smattering of laughs rang out along the table. Now, everyone, bon appetit. The butler entered through the kitchen door, led by a cart laden with covered trays. He stopped at every seat, placing a tray on the space in the center and uncovering it to reveal a steak resting in sauce, accentuated by herb garnishes. A murmur of awe went around the room, and everyone began to feast, almost overwhelmed by the potent combination of flavors they were experiencing. By the end of the meal, everyone seemed to have a warm tingle throughout their entire stomachs, perfectly full of food. As soon as the butler had cleared the table, Mr. Steele stood up again and tapped a spoon against his glass. When he had everybody's attention, he cleared his throat. I do hope you've all enjoyed this wonderful meal. I put this dinner together in honor of my wife, Eleanor, who was the guest of honor this evening. I hope you've all enjoyed her company and have found her to be completely satisfying. Mr. Steele beamed as a solitary scream rang throughout the room, followed by retching. It didn't take long for the other guests to follow suit.